In the early years of World War II, it seemed unstoppable. Germany crushed Poland in weeks. France collapsed in days. Europe fell one country at a time. By 1941, many believed Nazi Germany had already won the war. But history had other plans. Because when Germany was winning, something happened that changed everything. The peak of German power. By mid-1941, Germany controlled most of Europe. The Blitzkrieg strategy shocked the world. Fast tanks, coordinated air power, ruthless precision. Nazi forces moved faster than anyone thought possible. Britain stood alone. The United States was not yet fully involved. From the outside, Germany looked invincible. And then Hitler made his most dangerous decision. The invasion that changed the war. In June 1941, Germany launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in human history. Millions of soldiers crossed into the Soviet Union. At first, it looked like another easy victory. Soviet armies collapsed. Cities fell rapidly. German troops advanced hundreds of miles. But the deeper they went, the war began to change. Overconfidence turns deadly. Germany underestimated three things: Soviet manpower, Soviet industry, Soviet willingness to sacrifice everything. The campaign dragged on longer than expected. Supply lines stretched thin, fuel and ammunition became scarce, equipment wore down. Then winter arrived. Unprepared German troops froze. Engines failed. Momentum slowed. Germany was still winning battles, but losing control. Stalingrad, the point of no return. In 1942, Germany focused on capturing oil fields in the city of Stalingrad. What followed was one of the bloodiest battles in history. Street-by-street fighting, entire units wiped out, no retreat orders allowed. German forces were slowly surrounded. And in early 1943, the unthinkable happened. An entire German army surrendered. For the first time, the myth of German invincibility was shattered. The psychological collapse. Stalingrad was not just a military defeat, it was psychological. Allies realized Germany could be beaten. German soldiers realized victory was no longer guaranteed. From this moment forward, Germany was reacting, not controlling. The war had shifted. The last gamble. In 1943, Germany attempted to regain initiative at Battle of Kursk. It was meant to restore dominance. Instead, it failed. Soviet defenses were prepared. German losses were massive. After Kursk, Germany never launched another major offensive in the east. From that point on, retreat became the strategy. The West opens a new front. While Germany struggled in the east, the Allies prepared in the west. In June 1944, the impossible happened. D-Day. Germany now faced a two-front war it could not sustain. Resources were split. Air superiority was lost. Industry was bombed relentlessly. Germany was still fighting, but no longer winning. Hitler's fatal control. As the war worsened, Adolf Hitler centralized decision-making. Generals lost flexibility. Retreats were forbidden. Reserves were misused. Germany's strength became its weakness. Rigid control replaced adaptive strategy, and mistakes multiplied. When winning was no longer enough, Germany didn't lose the war in a single day. It lost it in stages. Overconfidence in 1941. Exhaustion in 1942. Collapse of momentum in 1943. Total pressure in 1944. Each moment weakened the next. By 1945, defeat was inevitable. But the true turning point came much earlier. When Germany was winning, it failed to stop. The final lesson. World War II teaches a brutal truth. Winning battles does not guarantee winning wars. Germany had superior tactics, experienced commanders, advanced weapons, but it lacked restraint, flexibility, and realism. And once momentum was lost, it never returned. when success became a trap. Germany's early victories created a dangerous illusion. Blitzkrieg worked so well in Poland and France that German leadership began to believe it would work everywhere. Speed had replaced strategy. Confidence replaced caution. Instead of consolidating gains, Germany kept expanding the war. And expansion without limits is where empires break. The war Germany wasn't ready for. The invasion of the Soviet Union under Operation Barbarossa was supposed to end in months. It didn't. The Soviet Union did not collapse. Instead, it absorbed the Udar, shock, and adapted. Factories were dismantled and moved east. New armies were raised faster than Germany could destroy them. Losses that would cripple other nations were replaced. Germany had planned for a short war. It had entered a long one. Logistics, the silent killer. German strategy depended on speed, but the deeper German armies moved east, the more fragile that speed became. Roads were poor, rail gauges were different, fuel shortages increased, spare parts became rare. Tanks without fuel are useless. Planes without maintenance are grounded. Germany's frontline strength looked terrifying. Behind the lines, the system was collapsing. Wars are not won by the front alone. They are Hitler versus his generals. As pressure mounted, Adolf Hitler began overruling experienced commanders. Retreats were forbidden. Flexibility was lost. Entire armies were ordered to stand fast, even when surrounded. This decision sealed disasters like Stalingrad. Professional soldiers knew when to pull back, but ideology replaced military judgment, and ideology does not adapt. The turning of the air war. While Germany focused on land battles, the skies were changing. The Allies began to dominate the air. German cities were bombed relentlessly. Factories were destroyed faster than they could be repaired. Fuel production collapsed. By 1944, Germany had tanks and planes on paper, but not enough fuel to use them. An army without air cover fights blind, and Germany was losing its vision. Too many enemies, too many fronts. Germany's greatest strength had become its greatest weakness. It was fighting. The Soviet Union in the east, Britain and the United States in the west. Resistance movements across Europe, strategic bombing from the air. No industrial base could sustain that pressure. Even victories became costly, and defeats became catastrophic. The moment momentum died. The defeat at Battle of Kursk in 1943 marked a permanent shift. From that moment onward, Germany no longer chose where or when to attack. It reacted. And reaction is the language of defeat. What winning really means. Germany didn't lose because its soldiers were weak. It lost because its strategy had no end. Winning requires knowing when to stop, when to consolidate, and when to negotiate. Germany did none of these. It chased total victory and found total war instead. Build up to the next part. By 1944, Germany was no longer fighting to win. It was fighting to survive. And then came the final blow, not from the east, but from the west. In the next part, we'll explore how the opening of a second front finally crushed any hope Germany had left, and why by then the war was already decided. The war Germany feared the most. For years, German planners had warned about one thing above all else: a two-front war. History had already shown how dangerous it was in World War I. Yet by 1944, Germany was facing that exact nightmare again. In the east, the Soviet Union was pushing relentlessly westward. In the air, German cities burned under constant bombing. And then, the blow Germany hoped to delay, but could never stop, finally came. June 6, 1944, the door breaks open. On the morning of D-Day, Allied forces landed in Normandy. At first, German command believed it was a diversion. They expected the main invasion elsewhere. That hesitation was fatal. While German leaders debated, Allied troops poured ashore, secured beachheads, and began building an unstoppable supply pipeline. What Germany feared for years was now reality. A full Western front was open. Germany was already exhausted. By the time the Allies landed in France, Germany was no longer the powerhouse of 1941. Fuel shortages crippled mobility. Experienced soldiers were dead or wounded. New recruits lacked training. Industry was under constant bombardment. Germany still had weapons, but it lacked time, resources, and flexibility. The invasion didn't just add pressure, it exposed how fragile Germany had already become. The air war was lost. One of the most decisive but overlooked shifts was in the sky. By 1944, Germany no longer controlled its own airspace. Allied aircraft dominated, bombing factories, destroying railways, attacking reinforcements before they reached the front. German units moving during daylight were annihilated. Even the best ground forces cannot fight effectively when the enemy owns the sky. From this point on, Germany was fighting blind. Hitler's final illusion. Despite the collapsing situation, Adolf Hitler refused to accept reality. He believed in miracle weapons. He believed in sudden reversals. He believed defeat could still be avoided. Orders became detached from the battlefield. Armies were commanded to hold impossible positions. Retreats were forbidden, even when survival depended on them. Germany wasn't losing because it lacked courage. It was losing because it lacked realism. The Eastern hammer, the Western anvil. By late 1944, Germany was trapped. The Soviet advance in the East crushed entire German formations. The Allies in the West broke out of Normandy and surged across France. Germany was being squeezed from both sides. Every loss now was permanent. There were no reserves left. The war had entered its final phase. When winning became impossible. Looking back, the truth is brutal. Germany did not lose World War II in Berlin in 1945. It lost it years earlier, when it invaded too much land, when it underestimated its enemies, when it turned success into overconfidence. By the time the Allies landed in France, the outcome was already decided. The final battles were about timing, not victory. Lead into the final part. The world often remembers the dramatic ending. Berlin in ruins, the clash at Kursk. The Tiger's most famous battlefield was the Battle of Kursk in 1943, the largest tank battle in history. Here, Tigers faced mass formations of Soviet armor, including upgraded versions of the T-34. Individually, Tigers were superior in firepower and armor, but Kursk exposed something critical. Numbers matter. Soviet forces deployed vast minefields, anti-tank guns, and overwhelming armor formations. Even the most powerful machines struggled when surrounded by dozens of enemies. The Tiger changed tank warfare, but it could not change mathematics. Engineering brilliance and burden. Technically, the Tiger was extraordinary. 100 millimeters thick frontal armor, 88 millimeters high-velocity gun, advanced optics for targeting, interleaved road wheels for weight distribution. But all that innovation came at a cost. The tank weighed over 50 tons, bridges collapsed under it, fuel consumption was massive, maintenance was constant. In many cases, Tigers were abandoned due to mechanical failure rather than enemy fire. This revealed the paradox of heavy armor. The stronger you become, the more fragile your logistics. Changing Allied strategy. The Tiger forced Allied nations to rethink tank doctrine entirely. Instead of simply improving medium tanks, they began focusing on dedicated tank destroyers, high-velocity anti-tank guns, improved coordination with air power. The British introduced Firefly variants of the Sherman, armed with powerful 17-pounder guns. The Soviets developed heavier tanks like the IS series. The arms race had begun, and the Tiger had started it. The myth versus reality. Over time, the Tiger gained near-legendary status. Stories spread of single Tigers destroying entire armored columns. Some accounts were exaggerated, but the psychological effect was real. When Allied forces reported a Tiger sighting, caution intensified. Even if only a few were present, the fear they generated was disproportionate to their numbers. The Tiger didn't just change tactics, it changed perception. A turning point in tank philosophy. Before the Tiger, tanks were tools of mobility and breakthrough. After the Tiger, they became symbols of dominance and long-range destruction. Tank warfare evolved into a balance between firepower, armor protection, mobility, production capacity. The Tiger pushed the scale heavily toward firepower and armor, and the world took notice. Closing buildup for final part. The Tiger was a revolution, but revolutions often carry consequences. Did it ultimately strengthen Germany's war effort, or did its cost and complexity accelerate defeat? In the next part, we explore whether the machine that changed tank warfare forever also changed Germany's fate. The strategic illusion. The Panzerkampfwagen 6 Tiger I was terrifying in combat. Its 88mm gun could destroy most Allied tanks before they could effectively respond. Its thick armor made it nearly invulnerable from the front. On the battlefield, it felt unstoppable. But wars are not won by single machines. They are won by systems. And this is where the Tiger's legend begins to crack. Too powerful for its own good. Each Tiger was expensive and time-consuming to build. Germany produced roughly 1,300 Tiger I tanks during the entire war. In comparison, the United States produced over 49,000 M4 Sherman tanks. The Soviet Union built tens of thousands of T-34 tanks. The numbers tell a brutal story. For every Tiger destroyed, several more Allied tanks could replace their losses quickly. Germany could not. The logistics nightmare. The Tiger consumed enormous amounts of fuel. It required constant maintenance. Its heavy weight damaged roads and strained bridges. In many cases, Tigers were lost not because of enemy fire, but because they broke down and had to be abandoned. A weapon that powerful demanded a supply chain Germany could no longer sustain, especially by 1944, when Allied bombing campaigns crippled industrial output. Power without support becomes a liability. The psychological weapon. Despite its flaws, the Tiger's psychological impact cannot be overstated. When Allied soldiers heard reports of a Tiger nearby, caution increased immediately. Entire operations slowed. Air support was requested. Artillery was prioritized. Even when only a handful were present, they influenced decisions far beyond their actual numbers. In that sense, the Tiger was more than a tank. It was a symbol. The arms race it sparked. The Tiger forced every major power to rethink tank design. After encountering it, the British upgraded Shermans with powerful 17-pounder guns. The Soviets accelerated heavy tank development like the IS series. The Americans improved anti-tank weapons and coordination tactics. Tank warfare shifted permanently toward heavier guns and stronger armor. The Tiger helped define what modern armored dominance looked like. Evolution toward the modern tank. After World War II, tank design philosophy evolved into the concept of the main battle tank, balancing firepower, protection, and mobility. The machine that changed World War II tank warfare forever. World War II was a war of machines, but among the thousands of weapons built between 1939 and 1945, one machine fundamentally changed how tanks were designed, deployed, and feared on the battlefield. It wasn't just powerful, it redefined armored warfare. This is the story of the Panzerkampfwagen 6 Tiger I, the tank that changed World War II tank warfare forever. Before the Tiger, the early tank war. At the start of World War II, tank combat looked very different. Germany relied on lighter tanks like the Panzer III and IV during its blitzkrieg campaigns in Poland and France. Speed, coordination, and radio communication mattered more than heavy armor. The strategy worked brilliantly. But in 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union, and everything changed. On the Eastern Front, German forces encountered something unexpected: the Soviet T-34. With sloped armor, wide tracks for mud and snow, and a powerful 76mm gun, the T-34 shocked German commanders. German anti-tank weapons struggled to penetrate it. Suddenly, Germany was no longer technologically superior in armor. They needed something bigger, stronger, deadlier. The birth of a monster. In response, Germany developed a new heavy tank, one designed to dominate any battlefield encounter. The result was the Tiger I. Introduced in 1942, it carried the devastating 88mm KWK-36 gun, a weapon capable of destroying enemy tanks at extreme distances. Its thick frontal armor made it nearly invulnerable to most Allied tank guns at the time. When the Tiger appeared, it didn't just fight tanks, it terrified them. Psychological warfare on tracks. The Tiger didn't just change battlefield mechanics, it changed morale. Allied tank crews feared it. Reports spread quickly. An 88 has knocked out 3 Shermans at long range. Its reputation often grew larger than reality. In North Africa and on the Eastern Front, a single Tiger could halt advances until artillery or air support was called in. The tank became a symbol, a steel predator, and that psychological impact reshaped tactics, forcing the Allies to adapt. Before the Tiger, many Allied tanks prioritized mobility and mass production. After the Tiger appeared, things shifted. The United States accelerated development of more powerful guns and improved tank destroyers. The British focused on equipping tanks with high-velocity 17-pounder guns. The Soviets upgunned the T-34 into the T-34/85 variant. In short, the Tiger forced evolution. It proved that armor thickness and long-range firepower could dominate open terrain. A new era of heavy armor. The Tiger's success encouraged Germany to pursue even heavier designs. This led to machines like the Tiger II, even more armored, even more powerful. Tank warfare began shifting toward heavier armor, bigger guns, increased engagement distances. The battlefield was no longer just about speed and maneuver. It was about who could see and destroy the enemy first, from farther away. The fatal weakness. But the Tiger had flaws. It was expensive, mechanically complex, difficult to repair, heavy and prone to breakdown. While terrifying in combat, it required enormous resources. Germany could never produce enough of them. Meanwhile, the Allies produced thousands of tanks quickly and reliably. The Tiger changed tank warfare tactically, but strategically, it could not save Germany. Legacy beyond World War II. Despite its limitations, the Tiger left a permanent mark on armored doctrine. After World War II, tank designers around the world prioritized high-velocity main guns, heavier armor protection, long-range engagement capability. Modern main battle tanks reflect many lessons first emphasized by the Tiger. It redefined what a dominant tank looked like, the machine that changed the battlefield. The Tiger I didn't win the war, but it changed how war was fought. It forced innovation. It created fear. It pushed every major power to rethink armor design. And for a moment in 1942 to 1943, it ruled the battlefield. Baptism by fire. Leningrad, 1942. The first combat deployment of the Panzerkampfwagen 6 Tiger I came near Leningrad in late 1942. The terrain was harsh. Mud swallowed vehicles. Mechanical failures exposed weaknesses. The Tiger was powerful, but not yet perfected. Several early Tigers broke down before even reaching combat. This revealed a hard truth. Power means nothing without reliability. Still, when the Tiger's 88mm gun fired successfully, it demonstrated terrifying accuracy and penetration at long distances. The era of long-range armored duels had begun. North Africa, the desert predator. In Tunisia, Tigers faced British and American forces. Open desert terrain favored long-range combat, exactly where the Tiger excelled. Allied tank crews inside the M4 Sherman quickly learned a dangerous lesson. The Tiger could destroy them before they were even in effective firing range. To counter this, Allied forces relied on artillery bombardment, airstrikes, coordinated multi-tank.